Hi, and welcome to another episode of TPS Traffic Jam, where we jam about traffic. Joining me today is John Westhaver. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad I got it right. We are talking about, well, a lot of things. Traffic safety, of course, and we want to learn more about you. So with that, let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I look different for a reason. I was actually burnt in a car crash 28 years ago as a result of speeding inexperience. Um, about a month and a half before high school graduation, me and three teen friends were out on a Friday night. We were road tripping. We were drinking in the car, but we had a sober driver, a designated driver who we thought was safe, and um, he was speeding. And we were kids that were used to speeding. We'd never been in a major crash before. We thought we were playing by the rules by having a designated driver, somebody that was sober. But the thing was, he was speeding, and he ended up losing control of the car in a sharp corner. And the car rolled after hitting a telephone pole, burst into flames. Myself, I was lucky. I managed to get out, but I'm burnt 75% of my body. My best friend Jason, Aaron, and Jimmy all died at the scene. It was a single vehicle crash. This single crash impacted the entire community, our school, and forever changed our families. And yeah, it was quite a long road to recovery.
Now, where you're in BC now, right?
Yeah, so I live in Victoria, British Columbia right now, and this happened all the way to the other side of Canada in St. Stephen, New Brunswick, little tiny town, little border town.
And it's funny, you say it affected the entire community because it's a smaller community, but it doesn't matter where things like this happen, it affects entire communities, and generationally it affects people.
It does, and it does. It really does. One of the things why I do this is because a lot of times when you see a vehicle crash on the news or on the side of the road you're passing by, you may see the impact of it, but you don't see the long-term impact. You don't see the struggling, the suffering that happens when somebody dies or somebody's hurt or injured or has to go back to work because of an injury. We never really talk about these things unless you've been directly impacted. So I think one of the educational pieces that's missing is really just sharing the long-term impacts of a vehicle crash. And you say collision, I say crash. It's the same thing because it's not an accident.
Absolutely.
It's an accident. It is a tree fall in your house in a windstorm.
Yeah.
Although the insurance company probably say cut it down before.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you really couldn't have avoided. Yeah, like unless you would have cut it down before it fell. It's amazing because when people, like you said, drive by a collision, they say, okay, here was something that slowed me down on my way home. But the cascading effects from that affects so many never come into someone's mind, and it's always somebody else's problem or somebody else that's affected. And it doesn't really come into your into your life unless you were directly involved.
Yeah, and a lot of times if you've been involved in a vehicle crash or even a fatal crash and you do witness something, that it represents everything that you've been through, and your heart goes out to the people involved, and you have to deal with what's going on internally for you. So for somebody who's been there, it's something that's always with me.
Yeah. Now, people who are listening to this episode as opposed to watching it, you said that you were burnt to 75% of your body. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm 75%, and I'm first to fourth degree burns. So first degree is the least severe. Fourth degree is the most severe. You really don't hear a lot about fourth degree, but fourth degree is the where it's actually destroys all of your skin and some tendons and bones, and there's major complications with fourth. And so I sustained life-threatening burns to 75% of my body, first to fourth. 50% of my body, so 50% of my body is third and fourth degree burns. So major requires grafting, and like my hands, my face, my chest, my legs. I'm pretty scarred up.
But you're here talking about it. You're taking the what happened to you and making it into a positive, and that's amazing. Now you do a tour. You speak to students. You've made this your mission.
Yeah, so 20 years ago, this fall, 20 years ago is the first day I stood on stage at a school here in Victoria and shared my story. And I remember it was just I was standing on stage and I was reading through my paper and I was talking about my story, and I was just as nervous as can be. And I had no idea the journey that would unfold for me as a speaker, and the people that I get to make a difference for, like people around the world, people in India, China, Europe, Australia, New Zealand. Like it's just around the world, and I, the small town guy, little tiny town, gets to make a difference for those people. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, 20 years ago I started. I actually got involved with the Firefighter Burn Fund of Victoria, British Columbia. When I got involved with them, I got involved with their peer support group, helping burn survivors, in that next phase of life after burn trauma. And I eventually started working with the survivors and wanted to do more, but I wanted to talk about road safety. I wanted to really change what happened to me. I wanted to change it. That's why I got into it. It's like I wanted to fix what happened, but what I discovered is I can't fix what happened. I can't change what happened. It happened. I have to deal with it. I have to live with it. I have to be responsible for it, and I can change what happens in the future. And so I got involved with ICBC, which is the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia. Started working with them, delivered a few talks, and I've been speaking full time with them since 2008 as on in their program of road safety speakers. And we have probably about 6 or 7 speakers that travel around BC talking about road safety. But I've traveled across Canada and the U.S. I created a tour in the Maritimes called the Zero Fatality Tour, and that was in 2016. I created that, and it started out with about 15 schools, and the largest year for that tour was, I think, 20 schools, and it was an opportunity for me to make a difference in the Maritimes, because there's not really a lot of speakers that travel around the Maritimes that talk about road safety. There are a few, but there's not a lot. And there's not a lot of resources for this. So one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to make a difference for my provinces. I say provinces because I grew up in New Brunswick, but I've got family all through Nova Scotia and PEI and and Newfoundland as well. So I wanted to make a difference for these provinces as well. They don't really have a lot of these resources. And so I got involved in this tour, created this tour, and here I am, one guy again. I wanted to make a difference, and I said, I'm going to create a tour. And well, this one single guy, the last tour that we did was in 2019. And what was really cool with that tour is because of the person I am and the difference I want to make, I actually got to sit down with the Minister of Education for New Brunswick, so Dominic Carty. And so I got to sit down on a one-on-one conversation with him to talk about the tour and the difference that I want to make. Unfortunately, COVID happened, and
everybody apparently.
Yeah, and so everything got sidelined. But eventually, I will get back to New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, PEI, and Newfoundland to do another tour. But a couple of the provinces I've never really done a lot of work in, inside of speaking, is Ontario and Quebec. And so I was like, hey, I want to come on to Sean's show and really share my experiences and contribute to his audiences and make a difference and let people know who I am and what I'm up to, and also encourage those people that are up and coming speakers that want to get involved in this stuff to get involved and reach out to me, and because we need more people sharing about their experiences.
Absolutely. And I was so happy to hear from you. You reached out and, as soon as I saw your story and started doing research, I mean, it was an obvious fit. Your story needs to be heard by more people, and especially the people in Ontario. I say especially, just including the people in Ontario.
Because you live there.
Because and I care about everybody. I mean, the goal of what we do here at Traffic Services, although it's the Toronto Police, although we speak to Ontario law every day, it's about traffic safety, and that applies everywhere in the world. We want people to get to where they're going safely every time. And we can't guarantee every time, but we can increase the odds by having people drive responsibly and safely. And it's choices. All of these things are choices. I think one of the most amazing things about your story is that alcohol wasn't a factor in the driver. So many times we say, oh, impaired driving, that's why it happened. But we seem to have a theme, because if you have been in Ontario, if you've driven, actually I shouldn't say Ontario, if you drive anywhere, speed is an issue. People tend to ignore the speed limit. They're important. They got to go where they got to go. They don't leave themselves enough time, and they're in a rush, and it's a busy world, and 10, 20, 30 kilometers over the speed limit seems to be acceptable for a lot of people. They don't feel unsafe. But driving is kind of unsafe. You're hurtling yourself through the air. Yeah, you're in a car and you got lots of safety things, but you're going fast. If you were on a skateboard, you'd be scared.
Yeah, and there's the problem is there's so many unpredictable things too. Like there's so many unforeseen situations. Like, we seem to think the faster the car, the like a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, Maserati, think, oh, these are fast cars, these are designed to drive fast. But how many times in the news do you see these in wrecks, destroyed, like completely destroyed?
Yeah, Volvo for years and years. Volvo was, and I always go back to that movie where they're boxy but they're good. They're known for safety. They made a name for themselves in safety. Lamborghini makes a name for themselves in speed and design, and I don't know how they handle in a crash test. I don't want to find out. Many people tend to defend the position of speed that doesn't kill. Speed doesn't kill. Stopping abruptly kills, they say. They every time I talk about speed, I get a number of witty answers, but it's all to deflect from the fact that speed does kill, and it does injure, and it does change lives. And slower is to some degree safer. It reduces the impact, literally.
Yeah, and it's there's that people that defend the right to speed, or I'm a good driver, all these conversations on why they should speed. It's speeding is not their only problem, because if they're having an issue just following the rules of the road, there's probably going to be other stuff in their life that they're dealing with as well. But one of the things that I talk about is the behavior behind driving. So what is it that's causing people to speed on a regular basis? It could be time management, like leaving earlier. One of the things I went to Vancouver from Victoria, and I used somebody else's vehicle, and I'm not used to I drive in Vancouver a bit, but I'm not used to the time to get somewhere. So I always plug my phone into the cars and set my GPS up. One of the things I like about that is it gives you a time of arrival. So that if I'm in an unfamiliar situation, or if I'm in traffic, I can just be like, oh, well, I know I have a buffer of 10 minutes and it's telling me that I'm going to arrive in this time. And if I'm stuck in traffic, I can see that time kind of crunch. I'm like, okay, well, and if need be, I can pull over, give the person I'm calling, or give the person I'm going to meet, a call and say, hey, I'm going to be late, I'm stuck in traffic. But it's that little bit of mental headspace, clarity that, I know I'm in an unfamiliar city. This is how much time it's going to take to get there based on, routes that have been traveled already and speed limit.
It reminds me of a concept of the future you're living into.
Oh, yes. That's all over.
It's a whole bunch of things. We've taken some similar courses, and it's very interesting talking about time management. Who you are and who is responsible for the actions you take are ultimately you. But many people have a lot of excuses or reasons why they're running late or why they're choosing to speed. And excuses are really just deflecting responsibility away from yourself.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And when we take responsibility, and we say, well, we need to be somewhere, it's important to us to be at that meeting on time. Well, then leave early, or otherwise deal with the impact of being late,
But don't put lives at risk just because you didn't plan. And that's what I talk about on a regular basis. I want people to get up a half hour early, or plan your clothing out, lay it out the night before. Do whatever it takes to not be in a rush on the day, because that few moments where you're trying to not look bad at the meeting that you're late for, or school, or whatever, or your job, could be the last day you drive.
And then also the mental health aspect of it too. Like how much of your day are you stressed out because
Hmm.
you're running behind, like trying to play catch up. Giving yourself a little bit of time, like, a little bit extra time in the morning. Wake up a little bit early, get ready and, go to bed a little bit earlier. There's all kinds of things we need to do. And that's why I like to talk about the behaviors behind driving versus I'm not just going to tell you not to speed because you should know not to speed. I'm going to share, I'm going to open your eyes to what are some of your behaviors and choices that you make on a regular basis that actually impact the speed. Now that's just we're just talking about speed. There's other things as well. Like there's distracted driving, there's impaired, there's seatbelts, like so it's really creating a conversation about what are the choices and behaviors that you're making that shape your driving. And when you get focused on those and you look at these, it actually increases the quality of your life in many different ways.
I've taken to podcasts, listening to audiobooks. My driving time is a relaxing experience, and it wasn't always that way. But I've taken control of it, and I've planned it in such a way that I look forward to the drive. And when I see traffic, I don't say, "Oh my God, I'm going to be late." No, I'm like, "I'm going to get through an extra chapter. I'm going to learn some new words in my language pack that I bought from there's so many opportunities, but you can choose which way you perceive it, and it will change your day.
Yeah, now as I've got three kids under 5 and under, so now my drive time when I'm getting somewhere is it's like it's a kid free time, and
Well,
there's no
yeah.
there's nobody yelling in the back seat. She
Well,
touched
well,
me.
I
She's
I
looking at
have
me.
gotten really good at Disney classic music, all of the movies, and Moana 9 million times. So, yeah, and now my youngest wants to be a pop star, so she sings it all, even if the radio's off. So I'm forever entertained. But as long as you can figure out as like to say, a happy place. You can relax and
Yeah,
taking that stress. I don't need any more stress. I got enough stress in my life, and I certainly have reasons to be home and to get places safely.
yeah.
And so many times I hear the excuse, "Well, I'm doing this and it doesn't affect me." I had a video that went up. You may have seen it on our TikTok account. I think I put it up on LinkedIn as well. And it was of a photographer hanging out the window,
I saw
taking
that.
pictures of a Lamborghini. And I didn't put it, "Hey, this is the police." I just said it's not smart, it's not legal, and it's not safe. And many of the people who responded, not knowing it was a police account, said, "Well, who's he hurting anyway? If he gets hurt, that's on him." But they don't take into consideration, okay, he got hurt in the crash, but somebody either ran over him or hit him, or the other drivers were now feeling responsible. A paramedic had to go and deal with them, a police officer, a fire person. Everyone had a hand in the crash. And then you have the people who were, secondary involvement, the parents, the grandparents, the siblings, the friends. There's anybody getting injured has hundreds of people who are impacted. And that's just one stage.
Yeah, and when I deliver talks to schools and organizations and companies, one of the things I do talk about is like when I talk about the crash and I'm sharing about the crash, I pause for one. I say like, there's so many people that are impacted by this one single vehicle crash. There's hundreds of people that are impacted. There's the families, there's the friends, there's the paramedics, like you said, the police, the firefighters, the surgeons, the nurses, the everybody in the hospital setting, like that have to address you or work with you when you survive. So yeah, exactly what you said. There's so many people involved, and what people don't realize is we're all human beings. We're not designed to see this kind of carnage. And as a police officer or a firefighter or a paramedic or a nurse or a first responder, somebody who witnesses the carnage of a fatal car crash, like something like mine, where kids are on fire and burning and, there's a dead kid on the road, like your brain is struggles, to deal with that. And it plays in your head over and over again. When I talk to Annie, who was one of the first responders, her husband was one of the first responders that helped out and tried to pull Jason and Aaron out. And he and a couple other ones couldn't sleep for a month because every time they tried to close their eyes, all they could see were these boys trying to get out of this burning wreck and watching them die. Like it was the hardest thing to process and deal with. And I want to tell you, some people never recover. Some people don't have the tools to be able to cope with that, and they turn into drugs or alcohol or some other mind-numbing behavior that helps them just exist.
Mm-hmm. And some people can't exist beyond it. It takes a toll, and as we saw in the news recently, some people take their lives, and it's tragic. The whole experiences are tragic and avoidable,
Yeah,
because had the driver not been speeding, your
yeah,
collision may not have occurred.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and
And
go ahead.
and teenagers nowadays, well, not nowadays, but all teenagers and all kids and whatever, we don't think about the impact on our parents. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I did after the crash when I got into speaking is I went and talked to the parents to see how this impacted them. And talking to Jimmy's dad, Peter, he was sharing with the guilt that he had because he had given this car, which was the family car, to Jimmy, and he felt some sort of responsibility for this. And as kids and teenagers, we don't really think about that.
When my daughter trips and hurts her knee, I think about, I wasn't looking, I wasn't there, I should have been closer, I should have been paying more attention. I can't imagine being in the position, of the parent who said, "Sure, take the keys, I trust you, you're responsible,"
Yeah,
and then comes back with never seeing their child again. There's some heavy duty guilt that's associated with all these things.
yeah,
I used to be a photographer who photographed collision scenes, and as a result, so I would go to fatal crashes and photograph them as a member of the police service. And you see a lot of stuff, and we have a lot of members who are in therapy or can't deal, and they can't do this kind of work anymore. They go to a different type of policing, or they're off the road because it's too much. Just like you said, there's only so much that you're capable of processing, and everyone deals with it differently.
yeah. And in some places where you know Toronto, like Toronto, for example, you guys have a lot of resources for your police, but you go to some smaller communities or other countries that don't have the resources, the mental health support, and the making sure the police and paramedics and firefighters are fit to go back to work. Like if they don't have the resources, people don't get the help. And a lot of times in the industry, the firefighters, the police, the paramedics, the old school way of thinking is like, oh, I'm fine, I'll get through it, it's just another day at the office, sort of thing. But it's not.
They
it's
push it down. They suppress it. They don't talk about
Yeah,
it. And talking or speaking and having conversations like this are ways of processing. But at the end of the day, we're talking about band-aids to wounds that could have been avoided through responsible driving, through better choices. And that's where we want to get to people through education. Before, we want people to have conversations at home with with their loved ones. We also want to acknowledge that parents, when you're driving and you're driving in a certain way, whether you're speeding or using your phone, you're teaching your kids, even if they don't speak, they're learning. It's not something we can just issue a ticket to fix. It's not something we can just put a post on TikTok or Instagram to fix. It's something that we as a community have to come together and discuss and agree upon. It's about being in that same reality where we share information, and then we'll get somewhere.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
But it's those things that, so you speak to students. What kind of reactions do you get? You know,
It's Yeah. There's a lot of different reactions. One of the things that what I pride myself in is delivering, to high school students and companies and organizations. But what I pride myself in is being able to be that speaker, be that person that it clicks for people. Like it clicks, and they're just like, I never thought about it like that before, or I never thought about that. And something shifts in them, and you know that message is never leaving them, whether they choose to follow your advice or what you're offering. They're never going to be the same. They're never going to think the same because you've impacted them in such a way. And so that's what I like doing is being that speaker, that shifts behavior, that brings them on the journey of what it was like to be a teenager, to go through this, And then to see that, there's choices that we make on a regular basis that impact other people. And so really, you know, my choices impact people in the future. So if I can shift their behavior, my behavior, to making better, safer choices when in a vehicle, whether it be the driver or the passenger, it it makes a huge difference in reducing the carnage, the suffering, the tickets, all the bad stuff.
I like how you said you're the speaker that allows people to just click. It's almost like a kernel of popcorn popping. It can't be unpopped. Once you allow them to see what you're showing them, it's a
Yeah,
forever change. At least that's the hope.
yeah,
That the impact that you make on them is going to carry with them for the rest of their lives. And that's the
yeah.
hope that I have every day too.
Yeah, and it's like for what I tell kids, in audiences is for me to do an effective job at what I do, for me to get communicate effectively, I have to rip off that band-aid every single time to share the wounds with you per se. Um, so I have to relive this every single time I talk about it. Is that easy? Hell no, it's not easy, but I do it because I want to make a difference. And I know what it's like to live the hell that I've lived over the last 28 years because of choices that we made as teenagers, thinking nothing would go wrong. And so I rip that bandit off every time to share the open wounds and be raw because, I know that my efforts, you know, as painful as it is to share that, I know it's going to make a difference for somebody.
Yeah, and even if it fixes or saves one life, it's
Yeah.
worth it. And I'm sure you've been responsible for saving many, many, because, like I said, your story is amazing, and the fact that you get up and are so committed to this is inspiring.
Yeah, thank you for that. It definitely takes some things some days to get on stage and put all the noise aside and really be present out there. For a long time I was a robot on stage and just was in presentation mode and focus, just deliver your content. But as I developed as a speaker, I was really getting connected to my words and what I'm saying and pausing in the moment and being like, hey, what do I want to say in this moment? If I had the freedom to say anything, and then I'll be present with the audience and share what's in that moment. And so I go to you, Sean, in this moment and what you do. If you had the freedom to say anything to your audience, what would you like to say to your audience?
Oh man, there's so much to say, but it's
With the
at the
freedom
end
to
of the
say
day,
anything, you get to
anything. Yeah,
pause.
okay, chief,
Anything.
chief. This is. He gave me authorization.
Yeah,
We have a responsibility to do better, and it's not something that what do I say?
okay, I'll put all the noise aside. Put all the noise aside,
It's a
and
lot of
just
noise.
focus. What is it? What is it that you authentically want to share, unfiltered?
Well, there's always a little bit of a filter. I have a whole set of rules and regs that I have to follow. But and this isn't new. But police aren't about ticketing and telling you what to do. There's an underlying desire to see people get along, be safe, and go home and live, love, and be happy. And there's this very frustrating belief that we are bullies with badges that just want to make money for the man and boss people around. And nothing can be farther from the truth. We are real people who see really bad stuff on a regular basis. And if we don't experience it directly, we indirectly experience it through our colleagues and shared experiences. And it's hard. It's hard. And it's very difficult to listen to some of the feedback from people who don't appreciate and cannot relate, many of whom are very young and don't understand. And I discount that when people come back, especially online where we are subjected to all sorts of, I want to say it's bullying, it's online bullying. And as much as I say I'm a traffic man, I have no heart, it is very difficult to listen to people who just don't want to hear anything other than I have the right to speed, I have the right to modify and make my vehicle unsafe because it looks cool. Whatever the motivation is, I hear that and I'm a little bit hurt every time, a little bit, because it's just not. It doesn't jive with what I understand and know to be the right thing to do. And it's not a moral thing that someone told me, because I'm always told, "Oh, you're just telling folks what the man wants you to tell. You're bought and paid for, Shapiro. You're telling us the rules because it's good for it's good for everybody. These rules were designed based on common sense. Most traffic laws, most laws in general, are based in common sense. When you go too fast, you're going to hurt somebody. If you drink and drive, you're going to hurt somebody. And so I'm frustrated. But it's through conversations like this that I get to have with you and with others that help me come back to, this is important, and we need to have these conversations. And we're going to have them as long as I'm around because it's important. And like I said, we care. So there's my break from my normal spiel because he said I could.
Yeah. Well, here's why I like asking that question, is because a lot of times people don't understand what it's like to be of service as a police officer, paramedic, or firefighter, and to go to a crash scene and have to pick up the pieces and take that person to the hospital, and never know what it's like. Like what the efforts that I did, and then they don't understand the just the suffering that you guys go through when you have to do this day in day and day out sort of thing. And there's a lot of hardship that goes through or goes on with somebody when they have to do this on a regular basis. And so I really encourage people to stop and think, what is it like to be a police officer when you have to do that, when you have to give the next of kin notice, is it called, or paramedic or firefighter, when you're having to go to these things. If we can get over into other people's world for a moment, we can see that our choices are actually making a huge impact in the world. And if we can make smarter choices, it'll there'll be less impact negatively in the world, I think.
Something that I want to acknowledge. People say, well, fast is fun and I deserve to have fun, and why do you always mess with my fun? I'm all for fun, but do it somewhere where it's safe, controlled. You want to go fast, go on a racetrack, learn to drive properly, do it professionally, do it in a way that if something goes wrong, there's a pit crew there, there's somebody, emergency services prepared, and everyone involved knows what to do next. We have in the real world people who you might be waiting for a paramedic to come save you, and you may have modified your vehicle that take longer to get you out, and when seconds matter. I mean, if a car's on fire, seconds matter, but sometimes it's not cool to be safe.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes, and if you want to go fast, run.
Do it the old-fashioned way, literally, without combustion engines.
I love running. I'll tell you, I'm an adrenaline junkie, and I love to run. I am one of the best things out there. Get it out of your system.
You can have it. I don't like to run. I never have. I did it. I can do it. Actually, I used to be able to do it. I can't say I can do it now. I came to a mile trot to catch up to my little one, and I thought I was going to die. So, not going to happen for me in the next. I'd love to be able to run, but my body doesn't cooperate. So, we could talk for hours. I really enjoy spending time with you. This has been fantastic. Unfortunately, I have got to end our episode. But I don't want to cut you off without the opportunity to impart some knowledge or something that's really important to you. Your opportunity to, without filter, share.
Yeah, just for me, it's just get to those other people on the road with you, and when your choices result in a crash, because they will. It's not if it's going to be when it happens. There's going to impact other people around you, and it could be your loved ones, it could be people you care about. And if you can do something now to shift your behavior and your choices so that you don't have to impact them, you're going to save yourself and the people you love a lot of suffering.
You just inspired a thought. They say when you do public speaking, you should envision the room naked. That gives you some self-confidence. Instead of doing that, when you're driving, envision every car on the road to have the people you love the most in it. Because if you're putting them, in every car, then you'd hopefully be making choices to protect them. And if you can spin your head around that concept where everybody is as valuable as your most loved person, then maybe you make better choices. And maybe you are a great driver. Maybe you're a really responsible one who does make those good choices every single day. And if you are, I commend you. But if you're not, please have another look at, reevaluate things, because when it goes wrong real fast.
Yeah, it does. It does. And then also, just if you're looking to have me come to your school or organization or company, reach out to me. John Westhaver .com is my information, and I think Sean will put it down.
We'll put it in the lower third,
below.
right down there.
Yeah, and yeah, reach out to me. I am booking now for the fall and next spring, but really want to make a difference for your people.
In
And
Ontario.
your school organization in Ontario specifically,
Or anywhere.
because I haven't done a lot in Ontario. Yeah, or yeah, anywhere across Canada. Because
So in person, online, virtually, you do it all?
Yeah, I got a studio here. I got a full-on studio. I can do it here in person. I can do pre-recorded, hybrid, whatever you want in person. In
Awesome.
person is what I like, because I get to come and meet your people. But yeah, it's
Well, I hope you can make it down to Toronto, because I'd love to meet you in person. So
we'll just make it happen.
That's it. It'll happen.
We'll just make it happen.
Awesome. All the information in the show notes. Everything will be available for you. Once again, John, thank you so much for spending time with us on Traffic Jam. And we will hopefully do this again sometime in the not too distant future.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, for being the voice and the face of this program. You are doing a great job, and yeah, just thank you.
Thank you, and thank you. We're all about thanking. It's been awesome. Okay, we'll I'll hit end recording there.